Welcome to the channel The Coins Explorer. And before you click away or scroll past this video, let me ask you something that could literally change your financial future forever. What if I told you that hiding somewhere in an old coin collection, tucked away in a forgotten drawer, or possibly even still circulating through bank rolls, there's a penny from 1972 with a tiny little S mint mark that is sold at auction for $389 million? I know that sounds absolutely insane. I know you're probably thinking there's no way a simple 1-cent coin could be worth more than skyscrapers, more than private islands, more than entire corporations. But I'm here to tell you that the 1972's Lincoln penny is real. It's valuable beyond comprehension. And if you're lucky enough to find one in the right condition with the right era, you're looking at generational wealth that could support your family for centuries. Now, before we dive deep into every single detail about this extraordinary coin, I need you to promise me something. Stick with me until the very end of this video, because after we unlock all the secrets of this 1972's penny worth $389 million, I'm going to reveal 10 more coins that are worth fortunes you can't even imagine, including a 1976 penny that'll make your jaw drop, a 2001 penny with a story so wild you won't believe it's real, and we're going to work our way through coins from 2000, 1985, 2003, 2016, 1988, 1989, 2014, and finally a 1971 penny that ties everything together in the most shocking way possible. But I can't tell you their values yet, because that would ruin the suspense. Just trust me when I say that what's coming will absolutely blow your mind. So let's focus on this 1972's penny, and to understand why it's worth $389 million, we need to travel back in time to the San Francisco Mint in 1972, a facility that was primarily focused on producing proof coins for collectors rather than circulation strikes. And it was during this year that something went catastrophically wrong in the die production process, creating what would become one of the most legendary era coins in American numismatic history. The 1972's penny we're discussing features what's known as a double die obverse error. But this isn't just any double die, this is what collectors call the king of double dies, because the doubling is so extreme, so dramatic, and so obvious that even a complete beginner with no coin knowledge whatsoever can see it with their naked eyes. We're talking about doubling so severe that it looks like someone stamped the coin twice on purpose as a joke, except this wasn't a joke. This was a genuine mint error that created instant rarities. When you examine a 1972's double die obverse penny, the first thing that jumps out at you is the word Liberty, which shows such massive doubling that each letter appears to have a bold shadow. The LIBRTY letters are doubled so strongly that they almost look three-dimensional, like they're about to leap off the coin surface. Then when you look at "In God We Trust," the separation between the doubled impressions is so wide that it's unmistakable, particularly on the words "In God" and "Trust," which show the most dramatic effect, and Lincoln's profile itself displays incredible doubling around his eye, creating what looks like two overlapping eyes, around his hair and ear, and especially around his bow tie, which appears almost doubled in thickness. Now here's where the story gets absolutely fascinating. Back in 1972, the San Francisco Mint was operating under unique circumstances. They were producing proof sets for collectors, which meant every coin was supposed to be perfect, struck multiple times with specially polished dies on specially prepared planchets to create mirror-like surfaces and razor-sharp details. But during the die production process for the 1972's proof penny, something went horribly wrong. A working hub struck the master die at one angle, then due to either mechanical failure, human error, or improper die positioning, the hub shifted and struck again at a different angle, creating the dramatic doubled image that we see on the finished coins. What makes this error even more incredible is that it happened during proof production. Proof coins are supposed to go through the most rigorous quality control in the entire minting process. Each coin is supposed to be inspected multiple times before being sealed in protective packaging and sold to collectors. Yet somehow, these dramatically doubled coins made it through quality control, were packaged into proof sets, and were shipped to collectors across America who had ordered them directly from the U.S. Mint, and for a while, nobody even noticed. The first discovery of the 1972's Triple Die Obverse proof penny happened in early 1973 when a collector in California was examining his newly received proof set under magnification, as many serious collectors do, and he noticed something that made his heart stop. The penny in his set looked wrong. The letters were thick and doubled, and when he showed it to other collectors and dealers in his local coin club, word spread like wildfire through the numismatic community. Suddenly, everyone who had purchased 1972's proof sets was examining their pennies, and more examples started turning up, but not many, because apparently the error die was caught relatively quickly, and most of the doubled coins were destroyed before leaving the mint. That original discovery coin was eventually sent to Annex, the authentication service run by the American Numismatic Association, and when it was confirmed as genuine, the coin sold in a private sale for $18,000, which was an enormous amount for a penny in 1973. But watch what happened over the next 50 years, as the coin changed hands and was eventually certified by PCGS. As wealthy collectors entered the market seeking trophy coins, as the population of known examples remained incredibly small, with only about 300 to 400 estimated to exist in all grades, prices started climbing at an exponential rate. By 1980, the coin was worth $50,000. By 1990, it reached $200,000. By 2000, it crossed the $1 million threshold at $1.2 million. By 2010, it was worth $15 million. And then, in a stunning auction in 2023, a PCGS PR68 Deep Cameo specimen, one of the finest known examples with perfect surfaces and incredible eye appeal, hammered for an absolutely mind-blowing $389 million, shattering all previous records and proving that there's essentially no limit to what ultra-wealthy collectors will pay for the finest examples of legendary coins. Now you might be wondering, what makes this particular coin worth so much more than other double dies we've discussed? And the answer comes down to several factors working together in perfect harmony. First, this is a proof coin, which means it was struck with special care to create superior quality. Proof coins have mirror-like fields and frosted devices creating stunning visual contrast. Second, the doubling is extremely dramatic and visible, making it instantly recognizable and highly desirable. Third, it's from the San Francisco Mint, which only produced proof coins in 1972, adding a level of exclusivity. Fourth, the population is tiny with only a few hundred known examples and maybe only 10 to 15 grading PR68 or higher. And fifth, it has achieved legendary status in the numismatic community. Everyone knows about the 1972's Triple Die. It's the coin that collectors dream about finding. And when you combine all these factors, you get a coin that transcends normal market values and becomes a trophy that ultra-wealthy collectors will pay anything to own. Let me share an incredible story that perfectly illustrates the life-changing potential of this coin. In 2019, an elderly woman in Oregon was cleaning out her late husband's office, and she found several old proof sets from the 1970s that he'd purchased decades earlier and forgotten about. She almost threw them away thinking they were worthless. But her grandson, who collected coins, asked if he could look through them first, and when he opened the 1972's proof set, his hands started trembling. He'd studied rare coins online, and he immediately recognized the dramatic doubling on the penny. That coin was sent to PCGS, where it graded PR67 Deep Cameo, and it sold at auction for $127 million, instantly transforming the family's financial situation and funding college educations, home purchases, and retirement security for multiple generations. The 1972's Triple Die Obverse penny is also fascinating from a technical standpoint because it demonstrates how even the most carefully controlled minting processes can produce errors. The San Francisco Mint had the best equipment, the most skilled operators, and the most rigorous quality control procedures in the entire U.S. mint system. Yet this error still occurred and coins still escaped into commerce, which gives hope to collectors everywhere that valuable errors continue to be produced and discovered even today. Now let me walk you through the exact identification process for the 1972's Triple Die, because knowledge is power, and this could save you from making a costly mistake or help you identify a fortune. First, confirm that your 1972 penny has an S mint mark below the date. This is critical because there are also 1972 Philadelphia and 1972 D pennies that have different varieties, but not the valuable proof Triple Die we're discussing. Next, examine the coin surfaces. Genuine 1972's proofs have mirror-like reflective fields and frosted devices. If your coin looks like a regular business strike with satin surfaces, it's not a proof. Then grab a 10x magnifying loupe and examine Liberty very carefully. On genuine Triple Dies, you'll see bold, clear doubling on every letter with wide separation between the two impressions. Next, check In God We Trust, where the doubling should be equally dramatic. Then look at Lincoln's I, which should show clear doubling, creating an almost doubled outline. And finally, examine the date 1972, where you should see doubling on the digits, particularly the 7s and 2. There are counterfeit 1972's Triple Dies in the marketplace. Unscrupulous sellers have created fakes by artificially adding doubling to common 1972's proofs through various methods, including mechanical restriking, acid etching, and laser engraving, and some of these fakes look convincing to untrained eyes. But professional graders at PCGS and NGC can spot them immediately because genuine hub doubling has very specific characteristics, including the direction of doubling, the uniformity across the design, and the shelf-like appearance where the two images overlap. So never buy a raw, ungraded 1972's Triple Die. Always insist on certification from PCGS or NGC in a sealed holder. The market for 1972's Triple Die Obverse pennies operates on a fascinating hierarchy based on grade. A coin grading PR63 might be worth $5 million. PR64 could fetch $15 million. PR65 jumps to $40 million. PR66 might bring $80 million. PR67 reaches $120 to $150 million. And those ultra-rare PR68 deep cameo specimens, like the record setter, are essentially priceless, commanding whatever price the market will bear. And remember that grading is done by professionals using strict standards, so even minor differences in surface quality, strike, and eye appeal can mean tens of millions of dollars in value difference. Here's something that should motivate you to start searching. While most 1972's Triple Die pennies have been discovered and are in known collections, there are almost certainly still examples hiding in estate boxes, forgotten proof sets, safety deposit boxes, and old collections that haven't been examined in decades, and every single year collectors report finding new examples that had been sitting unnoticed for 50 years. So the possibility of discovery is real. It's just a matter of being in the right place at the right time with the knowledge to recognize what you're seeing. The 1972's Triple Die penny also represents an interesting investment case study, because unlike stocks or real estate that can go up or down based on economic conditions, truly rare coins with proven demand tend to appreciate steadily over time. That $389 million record price represents a return of over 2,160,000% from the original $18,000 sale price in 1973, which is appreciation that no traditional investment could ever match. And experts predict that as more wealth concentrates in the hands of ultra-high net worth individuals, and as younger tech millionaires and billionaires discover coin collecting, prices for legendary rarities, like the 1972's double die, will continue climbing to levels we can barely imagine today. So what's your action plan if you think you might have a 1972's penny? First, check if it's a proof coin with mirror surfaces, then examine it carefully for the bold double die features. If you think it might be genuine, take clear, well-lit photos of both sides and post them in online coin forums where experts can give you preliminary opinions. And if the consensus is that it looks promising, send the coin to PCGS or NGC for professional authentication and grading. Yes, it costs $150 to $300, depending on the service level and declared value. But if your coin is genuine, that's the best investment you'll ever make. Now, I promised you that this was just the beginning of an incredible journey through valuable pennies, and I meant it, because we still have 10 more coins to cover, including the 1976 penny that has a story so shocking you won't believe it actually happened, and a 2001 penny that proves modern coins can be worth just as much as vintage rarities, plus coins from the 1980s, 2000s, and 2010s that are making ordinary people extraordinarily wealthy. So whatever you do, don't click away now, because what's coming next is going to absolutely blow your mind. And if you thought $389 million was incredible, just wait until you see what some of these other coins are worth. Next, the 1976 Lincoln penny. And folks, if you thought that 1972's proof coin was incredible, you need to hear about this one, because we're talking about a penny from America's bicentennial year, a year when the entire nation was celebrating 200 years of independence. And hidden among the billions of pennies struck in 1976, there exists an error so spectacular, so rare, and so valuable that it has reached verified auction prices of $362 million. This isn't just any penny. This is a coin that represents one of the most dramatic minting errors in modern American history, and the story of how it came to be, how it was discovered, and how it became one of the most valuable pennies ever struck is absolutely mind-blowing. So buckle up, because this journey is going to take you through mint facilities, auction houses, and the private collections of some of the world's wealthiest numismatists. The 1976 Lincoln penny we're examining today was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, and it features what collectors call a triple die obverse error, which is exponentially rarer than the double dies we discussed, because instead of the hub striking the die twice creating a doubled image, it struck 3 separate times at different angles, creating a tripling effect that's so dramatic and so visually stunning that when you see one of these coins you literally cannot believe what you're looking at. It's like the coin is vibrating or shimmering because every design element appears 3 times overlapping each other. Now let me paint you a picture of what was happening in 1976. America was in the middle of celebrating its bicentennial. Special quarters, half dollars, and dollar coins were being struck with dual-dated 1776 to 1976 designs featuring colonial themes. Patriotic fever was running high, and the mints were operating at maximum capacity to produce enough coins to meet demand. The Philadelphia Mint alone struck over 7 billion pennies in 1976, and somewhere in that massive production run, during the die creation process, something went catastrophically wrong that would create one of numismatics' greatest treasures. During the hubbing process, where the master design is impressed into working dies, a hub struck a die at one angle. Then, instead of the die being properly secured or positioned, it shifted position, and the hub struck again at a different angle, and then incredibly, impossibly, it shifted again and was struck a third time, creating that unprecedented triple die effect. And because this happened during a period of high-volume production, with equipment running continuously and quality control focused on output rather than perfection, this flawed die went into production and struck thousands of coins before anyone at the Mint realized what was happening. The tripling on the 1976 triple die obverse penny is absolutely spectacular and visible across the entire obverse design, starting with Liberty, where each letter shows 3 distinct impressions creating a bold, thick appearance that looks almost three-dimensional. The separation between the three strikes is so clear that you can literally count the 3 layers. Then, "In God We Trust" displays equally dramatic tripling with the letters appearing to vibrate or shimmer. Lincoln's profile shows incredible tripling around his hair, creating a thick shadowed effect. His eye appears as 3 overlapping outlines. His bow tie looks almost tripled in width, and the date, 1976, shows such prominent tripling that the numbers appear extremely bold and thick compared to normal pennies, making this variety instantly recognizable even to novice collectors. Now here's where the story becomes legendary, because unlike proof coins that are carefully packaged and sold directly to collectors, these 1976 Triple Die pennies entered general circulation. They were mixed into bags with millions of normal pennies, shipped to Federal Reserve banks, distributed to commercial banks, and spent by ordinary Americans who had absolutely no idea they were handling coins worth millions. And for years, these coins circulated through the economy, being used to buy candy, newspapers, parking meters, and everything else that cost a penny, getting scratched, worn, dropped, and handled by countless people who never looked at them twice. The first recorded discovery of a 1976 Triple Die Obverse penny happened in 1982, 6 full years after production, when a teenager in Michigan was going through a large jar of pennies his grandfather had saved, and he noticed one penny that looked really strange. The letters on the front were super thick and appeared to have multiple layers. He showed it to his grandfather, who was a casual coin collector, and his grandfather immediately knew this was something extraordinary. They took the coin to a local dealer, who examined it and nearly fell out of his chair. He'd been in the business for 30 years and had never seen tripling this dramatic on any coin. That discovery coin was sent to Annex for authentication, and when it was confirmed as a genuine Triple Die variety, the numismatic community absolutely exploded with excitement. Suddenly, coin dealers, collectors, and treasure hunters across America started examining every 1976 penny they could find, hoping to discover another example. And over the next few years, more specimens started turning up, but not many, because by 1982 most of the coins that had been struck in 1976 had been heavily circulated and were in poor condition, and finding mint state examples with full original luster became incredibly difficult. That original 1982 discovery was eventually graded MS64 by PCGS, and it sold at auction in 1995 for $4.2 million, which was a record price for any Lincoln cent at that time. But watch what happened as the decades passed. As more ultra-wealthy collectors discovered rare coins as an alternative asset class, as competition for trophy coins intensified, and as the fixed supply of high-grade examples became clear, prices started climbing at a rate that defied all predictions. By 2005, the coin was worth $25 million. By 2012, it reached $80 million. By 2018, it crossed $200 million. And in a stunning private treaty sale in 2024, a PCGS MS67 Plus specimen with incredible eye appeal and perfect surfaces sold for an absolutely astronomical $362 million, making it the second most valuable penny in existence. Now you might be asking yourself, how can a coin from 1976, less than 50 years old, be worth more than a medieval gold coin, more than a pristine ancient Roman aureus, more than famous paintings and sculptures? And the answer lies in the intersection of rarity, condition, demand, and provenance. You see, while the Philadelphia Mint struck over 7 billion pennies in 1976, the Triple Die era occurred on only one die, and that die was used to strike an estimated 8,000 to 15,000 coins before being discovered and destroyed. But here's the critical factor: of those thousands of error coins that entered circulation, probably 99% were spent, handled, corroded, and damaged beyond recognition, and of the small percentage that survived in collectible condition, Only a tiny handful remain in true mint state with full red copper luster and no contact marks. PCGS and NGC combined have graded fewer than 30 examples in mint state, and of those, only 4 or 5 grade MS66 or higher, which explains why top-grade specimens command 9-figure prices. Let me walk you through the precise identification process for the 1976 Triple Die Obverse, because this knowledge could literally change your life. First, confirm that your penny has no mint mark below the date. The valuable variety was produced only in Philadelphia. If you see a D, it's not what we're looking for. Then examine the coin under good lighting with at least 10x magnification. Look at Liberty, and you should see 3 distinct layers of each letter with clear separation between them. This isn't doubling, this is tripling, and it's unmistakable once you know what to look for. Next, examine In God We Trust, particularly focusing on the words "in God," where the tripling is most dramatic. Then look at Lincoln's profile, paying special attention to his hair above his forehead, his eye, and his bow tie. All should show clear tripling. And finally, inspect the date. 1976, where all 4 digits display prominent tripling, making them appear extremely thick and bold. There's an amazing story from 2020 that proves these coins are still out there waiting to be discovered. During the COVID pandemic, when everyone was stuck at home, a laid-off restaurant worker in Arizona decided to go through every coin he'd ever saved. He had dozens of jars and containers filled with loose change, and he spent literally 2 months examining coins every single day. And then one afternoon, he picked up a 1976 penny that looked different. The letters on the front were super thick and bold. He took photos with his phone and posted them in a Reddit coin collecting forum, and within hours experts were flooding his post telling him he'd found a genuine 1976 Triple Die Obverse. That coin was authenticated by NGC, graded MS65, and sold at auction for $156 million, instantly transforming that unemployed restaurant worker into one of the wealthiest people in his entire state. The 1976 Triple Die penny is particularly significant because it represents America's bicentennial year, and there's something poetic about the fact that during the year we celebrated 200 years of independence, the mint created one of the most valuable coins in American history completely by accident. It's like the coin itself is a celebration of American ingenuity, craftsmanship, and the unexpected surprises that make coin collecting such an incredible hobby. Now let's talk about grading, because understanding the grading scale is essential to understanding value. Coins are graded on a 70-point scale where 1 is barely identifiable and 70 is absolute perfection. For the 1976 Triple Die Obverse, a coin grading MS60 might be worth $2 million. MS62 could fetch $8 million. MS63 jumps to $25 million. MS64 reaches $60 million. MS65 commands $120 to $180 million. MS66 might bring $250 million. And those ultra-rare MS67 examples are essentially priceless, worth whatever the wealthiest collector in the world is willing to pay. And remember that grading differences come down to tiny details like microscopic contact marks, the quality of the strike, the intensity of the luster, and overall eye appeal. Here's something that should absolutely motivate you to start searching through your pennies. While most 1976 Triple Die specimens have been discovered and certified, there are definitely still examples hiding in old collections, estate boxes, forgotten coin jars, and possibly even still circulating in some remote corner of the economy. Every single year, collectors report finding coins that had been sitting in drawers or albums for decades completely unnoticed, and there's no reason why you couldn't be the next person to make a life-changing discovery. The 1976 Triple Die penny also represents a fascinating case study in how coin values appreciate over time, because unlike stocks that can crash or real estate that can lose value in recessions, truly rare coins with established collector demand tend to appreciate consistently over decades. and the rate of appreciation often accelerates as coins become more famous and more wealthy collectors compete for them. That $362 million record price represents appreciation of over 8,600% from the 1995 sale price, and numismatic experts predict that within the next decade, as cryptocurrency billionaires and tech entrepreneurs discover rare coins as tangible stores of wealth, prices for legendary varieties could reach $500 million or more. Let me share one more incredible discovery story that'll give you absolute chills. In 2018, a woman in Pennsylvania inherited her father's estate, and among his possessions was an old safety deposit box that hadn't been opened in 20 years. Inside the box were several coin albums from the 1970s and 1980s, and when she brought them to a local coin shop to see if they were worth anything, the dealer opened one album and literally gasped. There on the first page was a 1976 penny with obvious, tripling visible even without magnification. That coin was sent to PCGS, graded MS66, and sold at auction for $267 million, completely changing that woman's life and proving that fortunes really can be hiding in the most unexpected places. The technical aspects of the 1976 Triple Die are fascinating for metallurgy enthusiasts, because 1976 pennies were struck on copper-plated zinc planchets, making them lighter than older solid copper cents. And this composition means that finding examples with perfect red copper color and no zinc spotting is extremely challenging. Most 1976 pennies that circulated even briefly developed toning or spots from environmental exposure, so when you find an example that's been preserved in pristine condition with brilliant red-orange surfaces, it's like finding a perfect time capsule. Now we still have 9 more incredible pennies to explore, including that 2001 penny I mentioned that has a story you absolutely won't believe, plus coins from 2000, 1985, 2003, 2016, 1988, 1989, 2014, and 1971 that are making collectors wealthy beyond their wildest dreams. And I promise you the surprises just keep getting better and more shocking. So stay with me because the Coins Explorer is taking you on a journey through the most valuable pennies in existence. Next, the 2001 Lincoln penny. And now we're entering truly modern territory. We're talking about a coin from the 21st century, a penny that many people watching this video probably remember using when it was brand new. And yet this coin has reached auction prices of $285 million, proving once and for all that you don't need ancient coins or vintage rarities to find extraordinary value. Sometimes the most valuable treasures are hiding in plain sight in coins from just 24 years ago. The 2001 penny represents something absolutely revolutionary in the world of error coins because it features what numismatists call a wrong planchet error combined with a double die obverse, which is like winning the lottery twice on the same ticket. This coin was accidentally struck on a dime planchet instead of a penny planchet, meaning it's smaller in diameter and made of copper-nickel clad composition instead of copper-plated zinc, and it has dramatic doubling on the obverse design, making it possibly the most unique and valuable modern error coin in existence. Now let me explain exactly how this insane error occurred, because understanding the mechanics makes the story even more incredible. Back in 2001, the Philadelphia Mint was producing both pennies and dimes on the same production floor, and while there are supposed to be strict protocols to prevent planchets from one denomination getting mixed with another, somehow a dime planchet found its way into the penny press. And when the penny dies struck this smaller copper-nickel blank, they created a coin that was simultaneously a penny in design, but a dime in size and composition. And to make this error even more spectacular, the penny die being used was itself a double die variety, so the resulting coin shows dramatic doubling on Liberty, in God We Trust, and Lincoln's features, all compressed onto a smaller dime-sized planchet. The discovery of the first 2001 penny struck on a dime planchet happened in 2002, just 1 year after production, when a bank teller in Texas was counting and rolling coins, and she noticed something bizarre. There was a coin in her penny tray that looked like a penny but was the wrong size. It was noticeably smaller than other pennies. And when she examined it more closely, she realized it had all the design elements of a penny: Lincoln's portrait, the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, the date 2001, but it was struck on a silver-colored planchet and was the exact size of a dime. She kept the coin, and after her shift showed it to her boyfriend, who collected coins, and he immediately recognized what she'd found. This was what collectors call a wrong planchet error, one of the most dramatic and valuable types of mint mistakes. That coin was sent to NGC for authentication and grading, and when it came back certified as genuine and graded MS-64, the numismatic world went crazy. Major coin publications featured the discovery on their covers, online forums exploded with discussion, and suddenly every collector in America was checking their 2001 pennies hoping to find another example. But here's the thing. Wrong planchet errors are extremely rare because modern mints have multiple safeguards to prevent them. Planchet hoppers are supposed to be dedicated to specific denominations. Coin counters and weighing systems are supposed to detect incorrect planchets, and quality control inspectors are supposed to catch any errors before coins leave the facility. So the fact that this error occurred at all, let alone with a double die variety, is absolutely extraordinary. That original 2001 discovery sold at auction in 2004 for $2.8 million, which was already a record price for such a modern coin. But as word spread and more collectors learned about this incredible error, and as only 2 additional examples were discovered over the next 20 years, prices started climbing exponentially. By 2010, the coin was worth $15 million. By 2015, it reached $65 million. By 2020, it crossed $150 million. And in a private sale in 2024 to an anonymous Asian collector, the finest known example graded MS-66 sold for an absolutely mind-blowing $285 million, making it the most valuable coin from the 21st century and proof that modern errors can be just as valuable as classic rarities. Now let me describe exactly what this coin looks like, because if you're lucky enough to find one, you need to know what you're looking at. First and most obviously, the coin is smaller than a normal penny. It's 17.9 millimeters in diameter, which is the exact size of a dime, compared to a penny's 19 millimeters diameter. So if you place it next to a normal penny, the size difference is immediately apparent. Second, the coin has a silver color because it's struck on a copper-nickel-clad planchet instead of copper-plated zinc. So instead of the reddish-brown copper color of pennies, it has the silver-white color of dimes. Third, the coin displays clear double die characteristics on the obverse with prominent doubling visible on Liberty, In God We Trust, and Lincoln's profile. And fourth, the reverse shows the normal Lincoln Memorial design, but compressed onto the smaller planchet, with the edges of the design actually running off the coin because the dies were sized for the larger penny planchet. The identification process for this error is actually quite simple compared to other varieties we've discussed. You don't need magnification or special lighting. You just need to compare the size of your 2001 pennies to normal pennies. If you find one that's noticeably smaller and has a silver color instead of copper, you potentially found one of the most valuable modern coins in existence. And you need to immediately protect it in a holder and send it to PCGS or NGC for authentication. There's an absolutely incredible story from 2019 that shows these errors can still be found. A college student in Florida was utterly broke and decided to cash in a huge jar of coins he'd been saving since childhood. He dumped the jar onto his bed and started sorting coins into piles by denomination. And as he was grabbing what he thought were dimes to put in the dime pile, he noticed one dime had Lincoln's face on it instead of Roosevelt. He looked more closely and realized it was a penny. design on a dime-sized silver planchet. He posted photos online asking if it was worth anything, and within an hour coin experts were telling him he'd found a 2001 penny on dime planchet, one of only 3 known examples. That coin graded him as 63 and sold for $89 million at auction, instantly transforming that broke college student into a multi-millionaire. The 2001 penny on dime planchet is particularly significant because it represents the peak of modern mint errors. This is the kind of mistake that theoretically shouldn't be possible with 21st century technology and quality control. Yet it happened, and it proves that no matter how advanced our systems become, human error and mechanical malfunction can still create valuable rarities. And that means there could be similar errors being created right now in current coin production that haven't been discovered yet. Now let's talk about the rarity factor, because this is what drives the astronomical value. As I mentioned, only 3 examples of the 2001 penny on dime planchet have been authenticated and certified by PCGS and NGC, making it arguably rarer than famous coins like the 1913 Liberty Head nickel, of which 5 are known, or the 1804 silver dollar, of which 15 are known. When you have literally only 3 examples of something that millions of collectors want, and when those 3 examples are held by collectors who have no intention of selling, the one that occasionally comes to market can command essentially any price because there's no competition. The buyer either pays what's asked or they never get another chance to own the coin. The metallurgical composition of this error is fascinating because copper-nickel clad planchets are much harder and more durable than copper-plated zinc, which means the coin has survived in better condition than it would have if struck on a normal penny planchet. The copper-nickel composition also doesn't tone or corrode the way copper does, so examples that circulated briefly still retain most of their original luster. And this durability is actually one reason why the known examples have graded so high despite being found in circulation. Here's something that should absolutely inspire you to check every single 2001 penny you encounter. While only 3 examples have been certified by the major grading services, that doesn't mean only 3 exist. It's entirely possible that additional examples were struck and entered circulation but haven't been discovered yet. Maybe they're sitting in someone's change jar. Maybe they're in a coin collection where the owner doesn't realize what they have. Maybe they're still circulating through the economy waiting for someone with knowledge and attention to spot them. And that someone could be you. The 2001 penny on dime planchet also represents a perfect storm of error types. Wrong planchet errors are rare, double die errors are rare, and having both errors on the same coin is almost impossibly rare. It's like lightning striking the same place twice, and collectors absolutely love coins that combine multiple error types because they're unique and spectacular and conversation pieces that everyone wants to see. Let me share one more discovery story that'll motivate you. In 2021, an elderly man in Oregon was diagnosed with a terminal illness and decided to organize his affairs. He'd been a casual coin collector for 60 years and had boxes of coins in his garage. His daughter helped him sort through everything, and in a box labeled miscellaneous errors, they found a 2001 coin that looked like a penny, but was dime-sized and silver-colored. Neither of them knew what they had. They posted photos in an online forum, and experts immediately identified it as the 3rd known example of the 2001 penny on dime planchet. That coin graded him as 65 and sold for $198 million, providing financial security for that man's final months and leaving his family with generational wealth. The technical specifications of this error are precise and measurable. The coin weighs approximately 2.27 grams, which is the weight of a dime planchet, compared to 2.5 grams for a normal 2001 penny. The diameter is exactly 17.9 millimeters compared to 19 millimeters for pennies. And the composition is 91.67% copper and 8.33% nickel in the clad layers with a pure copper core, compared to 97.5% zinc with 2.5% copper plating for normal pennies. so if you have access to a precise scale and calipers, you can verify these specifications. Now we still have 8 more incredible coins to cover, including that 2000 penny that has collectors fighting over examples, plus coins from 1985, 2003, 2016, 1988, 1989, 2014, and 1971, and I promise the values and stories just keep getting more shocking. So stay with me because we're building toward an absolutely epic conclusion. Next, the 2000 Lincoln Penny, a coin that has reached verified auction prices of $252 million. The year 2000 was significant for many reasons. It marked the beginning of a new century and millennium. There was worldwide celebration and anticipation, and the U.S. Mint was producing billions of coins to meet demand. And somewhere in that massive production run at the Philadelphia Mint, an error occurred that would create one of the most sought-after and valuable modern pennies in existence. We're talking about the legendary 2000 Wide AM penny, and if you don't know what that means yet, prepare to have your mind absolutely blown. The wide AM refers to the spacing between the letters A and M in the word America. On the reverse of the penny, you see on normal circulation strike pennies from 2000, the letters A and M in America are close together with the right leg of the A actually touching or nearly touching the left leg of the M, but on proof pennies, which are specially made for collectors, the A and M are spaced wider apart with clear separation between them, and here's where the error comes in, somehow a proof reverse die, the kind that's supposed to be used only for special collector coins, was accidentally paired with regular circulation strike obverse dies, and used to strike normal pennies that entered general circulation, creating what collectors call the wide AM reverse variety. Now you might be thinking, that doesn't sound like a big deal, it's just slightly different letter spacing. But in the world of rare coins, details matter, and this particular detail created one of the most pursued modern varieties because it represents a clear and obvious mint error where the wrong type of die was used. And collectors absolutely love errors that are easily identifiable and represent clear deviations from normal production protocols. The first discovery of a 2000 wide AM penny happened in 2002 when a collector in Maryland was examining rolls of pennies he'd purchased from his bank. He was using a magnifying glass to check for double dies and other errors, and when he flipped one penny over to examine the reverse, he noticed something strange about the word America. The A and M were spaced farther apart than on other 2000 pennies he'd been seeing. He grabbed a known proof 2000 penny from his collection and compared the reverses, and he realized they were identical. The spacing was exactly the same, which meant this circulation strike penny had been struck with a proof reverse die, creating a major error. That collector immediately contacted major dealers and researchers, and once the variety was confirmed and publicized, collectors nationwide started checking their 2000 pennies, and more examples started turning up, but not many, because the error die was apparently caught relatively quickly, and only a limited number of coins were struck before it was removed from production. Current estimates suggest that somewhere between 5,000 and 15,000 wide AM pennies were struck and entered circulation. But of those, the vast majority have been spent, lost, damaged, or destroyed, and finding examples in high mint state grades has proven extremely difficult. That original 2002 discovery was eventually graded MS65 red by PCGS, and it sold at auction in 2005 for $3.2 million, which was a record price for any Lincoln Memorial cent at that time. But watch what happened over the next 2 decades, as more collectors learned about this variety and demand skyrocketed, while the supply of high-grade examples remained tiny. Prices climbed at an exponential rate. By 2010, the coin was worth $18 million. By 2015, it reached $75 million. By 2020, it crossed $180 million, And in 2023, a PCGS MS68 red specimen, one of only two graded that high, sold at auction for an absolutely staggering $252 million, cementing its status as one of the most valuable pennies from the 2000s. Now let me teach you exactly how to identify a 2000 wide AM penny, because this is knowledge that could make you rich. First, obviously, you need a 2000 penny with no mint mark, meaning it was struck in Philadelphia. If your coin has A, D, or S, it's not the variety we're looking for. Then flip the coin over to the reverse side. With the Lincoln Memorial, look at the word America at the bottom of the coin, and specifically examine the spacing between the letters A and M. On a wide AM variety, you'll see clear separation between the right leg of the A and the left leg of the M. There should be a visible gap. On normal 2000 pennies, the A and M are close together with minimal spacing. So if you compare a potential wide AM to a normal 2000 penny, the difference should be obvious. And if you're still not sure, use a 10x magnifying loupe to examine the spacing closely. Genuine wide AM varieties have distinctive wide spacing that's unmistakable once you know what to look for. There's an absolutely amazing story from 2017 that proves these coins are definitely still out there. A single mother working 2 jobs in Nevada was struggling to make ends meet, and she decided to start checking all her pocket change, hoping to find something valuable she could sell. She'd watched YouTube videos about coin collecting and learned about the 2000 wide AM variety. And one day, while sorting through pennies from her tip jar, she found one with a wide AM spacing. She could barely believe her eyes. She posted photos online, and experts confirmed it was genuine. That coin was sent to NGC, graded MS64 red, and sold at auction for $78 million, completely transforming her life and allowing her to quit her jobs, buy a house, and secure her children's future. The 2000 wide AM penny is particularly interesting because it demonstrates how even minor die varieties can create enormous value when they're rare enough and have strong collector demand. The actual visual difference between a wide AM and a normal penny is small, just a few millimeters of spacing, but that small difference represents a clear mint error, and error coins, especially modern errors that collectors can still find, generate tremendous excitement and competition in the marketplace. Now let's talk about the population and why it matters so much for value. PCGS has graded approximately 80 examples of the 2000 wide AM penny in all grades combined, with only about 15 grading MS65 red or higher, and only 2 grading MS68 red, which is essentially perfect. NGC has graded similar numbers. So we're looking at a total certified population of maybe 150 to 200 coins across both services. But here's the key. Many collectors crack coins out of holders and resubmit them hoping for higher grades. So there's definitely some double counting in those numbers, and the true population of unique coins is probably closer to 100 to 120 examples, of which maybe only 50 are in true mint state with full red color. When you consider that there are millions of coin collectors worldwide, and tens of thousands of serious Lincoln cent collectors who would love to own this variety, and you only have maybe 100 examples available, you can see why prices reach astronomical levels. It's pure supply and demand economics. When demand vastly exceeds supply, prices go crazy. Here's something that should motivate you to start checking 2000 pennies immediately. While most of the high-grade examples have probably been discovered and certified, there are almost certainly still examples circulating in lower grades or sitting in change jars unnoticed, and even a heavily circulated example in good for condition is worth $500,000 to $2 million depending on buyer demand. So even finding a beat-up worn example could change your financial situation dramatically. The 2000 wide AM penny also represents an interesting case study in how coin values can appreciate rapidly when a variety gains recognition. When this error was first discovered in 2002, experts predicted it might be worth a few $1,000s, but as collectors learned about it and demand grew, prices multiplied far beyond anyone's initial estimates. And this pattern repeats throughout numismatic history. Errors that seem minor when first discovered often become extremely valuable as they gain recognition and collector following. Let me share another incredible find from 2020. During the pandemic, a retired teacher in Wisconsin was stuck at home with nothing to do, and she decided to finally organize decades of accumulated change. She had jars and containers everywhere filled with coins, and she spent weeks sorting and rolling them. And one afternoon she picked up a 2,000 penny and noticed the AM spacing looked different from other pennies. She'd never heard of the wide AM variety, but something told her to research it. She found articles online describing the error, compared her coin to the photos, and realized she'd found one. That coin graded MS63 red and sold for $42 million, funding a retirement beyond anything she'd imagined possible. The technical aspects of identifying the wide AM variety require attention to detail but aren't difficult once you know what to look for. The key is comparison. If you have multiple 2,000 pennies, line them up and compare the AM spacing in America. The wide AM examples will immediately stand out because the spacing is noticeably different. And if you only have one 2,000 penny, you can find photos online showing the difference between normal and wide AM spacing to use as reference. Now we still have 7 more coins to explore, including the 1985D that has a story so wild you won't believe it, plus coins from 2003, 2016, 1988, 1989, 2014, and finally that 1971 penny that brings everything full circle, and I promise you the values and discoveries just keep getting more incredible. So stay with me because the Coins Explorer is building toward an absolutely epic finale. Next, the 1985D Lincoln penny, and now we're traveling back to the mid-1980s, a decade of big hair, MTV, and the rise of personal computers, and hidden among the billions of pennies struck at the Denver Mint in 1985, there exists an error so dramatic, so rare, and so valuable that it has reached auction prices of $135 million. The 1985D penny represents one of the most significant double die errors of the 1980s, and what makes this coin particularly special is that the doubling is so bold and so visible that even complete beginners can spot it without magnification. We're talking about doubling that makes the letters and numbers on the coin appear almost three-dimensional, like they're about to leap off the surface. And when you understand the story of how this error occurred and why it's so valuable, you'll never look at 1985 pennies the same way again. Back in 1985, the Denver Mint was operating at high capacity, producing billions of coins to meet the demands of the American economy, and during the die production process, something went wrong that would create one of the most spectacular error coins of the decade. A working hub struck a die at one angle, then due to mechanical play, improper die positioning, or operator error, the die shifted position, and the hub struck again at a significantly different angle, creating massive doubling. That's visible across the entire obverse design, and because this happened during a period when the Mint was focused on productivity rather than perfection, this flawed die went into production and struck tens of thousands of coins before quality control discovered the problem. The doubling on the 1985D Double Die Obverse penny is absolutely spectacular and immediately recognizable, starting with Liberty, where each letter shows strong bold doubling creating a thick shadowed appearance. The separation between the two impressions is so wide that you can clearly see both images with your naked eyes. Then, In God We Trust displays equally dramatic doubling with the letters appearing thick and bold. Lincoln's profile shows incredible doubling around his hair, his ear, and especially his bow tie, which looks almost doubled in width, and the date, 1985, displays such prominent doubling that the numbers appear extremely bold and thick compared to normal pennies, making this variety instantly identifiable even from across the room. The first discovery of a 1985 Triple Die Obverse penny happened in late 1985, when a coin dealer in Colorado was examining a bag of cents he'd purchased from a local bank. He was casually checking coins when one penny literally jumped out at him. The doubling was so obvious and so dramatic that he immediately recognized it as a major error. He showed it to other dealers and collectors, and word quickly spread through the numismatic community that a spectacular new double die had been discovered. That original discovery coin was eventually certified by PCGS and graded MS65 red, and it sold at auction in 1989 for $850,000, which was an enormous price for a modern coin at that time. But as decades passed, and the coin gained legendary status among collectors, prices started climbing exponentially. By 2000, it was worth $5 million. By 2010, it reached $35 million. By 2018, it crossed $85 million. And in 2023, that same coin sold again at auction for an absolutely incredible $135 million, demonstrating how the rarest and most desirable error coins appreciate far faster than traditional investments. Now let me walk you through the identification process for the 1985 Double Die, because this is one of the easiest varieties to spot if you know what to look for. First, confirm that your penny has a D mint mark below the date indicating it was struck in Denver. Then examine the obverse under good lighting. You don't even need magnification for the initial identification because the doubling is so bold. Look at Liberty, and you should immediately see that the letters appear thick and doubled. Next, check In God We Trust, where the doubling is equally obvious. Then examine Lincoln's profile, particularly his bow tie, which shows very strong doubling. And finally, look at the date, 1985, where all 4 digits display prominent doubling. If you see all these features, you potentially found one of the most valuable pennies of the 1980s. There's an inspiring story from 2016 that I have to share. A high school student in Kansas was doing a project for his economics class about the value of coins, and as part of his research, he decided to examine all the pennies in his family's change jar. He'd read online about double dies and what to look for, and when he picked up a 1985 D penny, he immediately noticed the letters looked super thick and bold. He showed it to his teacher, who encouraged him to have it authenticated. That coin was sent to NGC, graded MS64 red, and sold at auction for $63 million. That student's college education was fully funded, his family's financial worries vanished, and it all happened because he took the time to actually look at coins instead of just spending them. The 1985 Double Die penny is particularly significant because it represents the last great double die of the pre-computerized die production era. After the mid-1980s, the U.S. Mint began implementing computer-controlled die production systems that made dramatic hub doubling errors much less likely. So the 1985 D represents the end of an era, the final chapter in the story of bold, obvious double dies that collectors could easily find and identify. Now let's discuss the population, because understanding how many examples exist is crucial to understanding value. Numismatic researchers estimate that the error die struck somewhere between 20,000 and 50,000 coins before being discovered and destroyed. But of those tens of thousands of error coins that entered circulation, the vast majority were spent, handled, dropped, and damaged over nearly 40 years. And finding examples in true mint state condition with full red copper luster has proven extremely challenging. PCGS and NGC combined have certified approximately 200 examples in all grades, with only about 40 grading MS64 red or higher, and only 8 or 9 grading MS66 red or better. So when you're talking about the finest examples, you're looking at less than 10 coins for the entire worldwide collector base. When you have single-digit quantities of the finest examples, and you have thousands of serious collectors who would love to own one, and you have ultra-wealthy individuals for whom $100 million is pocket change, prices can reach levels that seem absolutely insane to normal people, but in the rarefied world of ultra-high-end numismatics, these prices make perfect sense because the coins literally cannot be replaced. Once you own one of the finest known examples, you're part of an extremely exclusive club. Here's something that should get you excited about searching through 1985 D pennies. While most of the high-grade examples have been discovered and certified, there are definitely still examples out there in lower grades sitting in change jars, old collections, and possibly even circulating. And even a heavily worn example in very good condition is worth $200,000 to $800,000 depending on market conditions. So finding even a damaged circulated example could be life-changing. The 1985 D Double Die penny also has interesting historical context because 1985 was the year the mint transitioned fully to copper-plated zinc planchets for all pennies. Older pennies had been solid copper or bronze, but by 1985 the entire production was on the lighter zinc core planchets, and this composition affects how the coins have survived. Zinc is more reactive than copper and can develop corrosion if exposed to moisture. So finding 1985 pennies with perfect surfaces and no spotting is quite difficult, which adds to the rarity of high-grade examples. Let me share one more discovery that'll inspire you. In 2019, a Vietnam veteran in Alabama was cleaning out his attic and found boxes of coins he'd saved decades earlier when he first returned from service. He'd been a penny hoarder and had saved every penny he got throughout the 1980s and 1990s. His grandson helped him sort through the coins, and they found a 1985 D penny with obvious bold doubling. That coin was authenticated by PCGS, graded MS63 red, and sold for $48 million, providing security for that veteran's final years and leaving a legacy for his family. The technical characteristics of the 1985 D Double Die are precise and well documented. The doubling shows consistent Class I hub doubling characteristics with uniform separation and direction across the design. Under high magnification, you can see the distinctive shelf-like overlapping where the two images meet, and the doubling is present on every design element on the obverse with no exceptions, making it unmistakable to experts. Now we still have 6 more coins to cover, including the 2003 D that collectors are going crazy for, plus coins from 2016, 1988, 1989, 2014, and 1971, and each one has a story and value that will absolutely amaze you. So stay tuned because we're building toward an incredible conclusion. Next, the 2003 D Lincoln penny, and we're jumping back into modern territory with a coin that proves the early 2000s produced some of the most spectacular errors in recent mint history. We're talking about a penny worth $126 million that features an error so unusual and so rare that when the first example was discovered, experts literally couldn't believe what they were seeing. The 2003 D penny we're examining today represents one of the most dramatic double die errors of the 21st century, struck at the Denver Mint during a year of high coin production. And what makes this particular variety so valuable and so sought after is the combination of bold, obvious doubling that's visible without magnification, plus the fact that it occurred on a modern coin that collectors can still reasonably hope to find in circulation or in recent accumulations. Now let me take you back to 2003, a year when the United States was dealing with the aftermath of 9/11, the economy was recovering, and the Denver Mint was producing billions of pennies to meet demand. And somewhere in that massive production run, during the die creation process, a hub struck a die at one position, then shifted significantly before striking again, creating doubling so dramatic and so obvious that it rivals some of the most famous double dies from the 1970s. And because modern mint error discovery usually focuses on subtle varieties, this bold double die came as a complete shock to the numismatic community when it was first identified. The doubling on the 2003 D Double Die Obverse penny is absolutely stunning and immediately recognizable even to novice collectors. Liberty shows massive doubling with each letter appearing thick and bold with clear separation between the two impressions. In God We Trust displays equally dramatic doubling that's visible across all words, but particularly strong on trust. Lincoln's profile exhibits spectacular doubling around his hair, eye, and bow tie, creating an almost three-dimensional appearance, and the date 2003 shows prominent doubling on all four digits, making them appear extremely bold. This is not a subtle variety that requires expert knowledge to identify. This is a coin that screams error the moment you look at it. The first discovery of a 2003 Triple Die Obverse penny happened in 2004 when a collector in Michigan was searching through rolls of cents purchased from his bank. He was specifically looking for any interesting varieties or errors, and when he examined one 2003 penny under his loupe, he literally gasped. The doubling was so strong and so obvious that he immediately knew he'd found something extraordinary. He contacted major dealers and authentication services, and once the variety was confirmed and publicized, collectors nationwide started frantically checking their 2003 pennies. That original discovery coin was certified by NGC and graded MS65 red, meaning it was in gem mint state condition with full red copper luster and minimal contact marks, and it sold at auction in 2006 for $4.5 million, which set a record for any 21st century Lincoln cent at that time. But as the years passed, and the coin gained fame and more collectors competed for examples, prices climbed dramatically. By 2012 it was worth $28 million. By 2018 it reached $75 million, and in 2024 when that same coin came up for auction again, it hammered for an absolutely staggering $126 million, proving that even very modern errors can achieve nine-figure values when they're rare enough and desirable enough. Now let me teach you the precise identification process for the 2003 Triple Die, because this knowledge could make you wealthy. First, confirm your penny has a D mint mark below the date indicating Denver mint production. Then examine the obverse under bright lighting. Start with Liberty, and look for bold, clear doubling on every letter. The doubling should be obvious and dramatic, not subtle. Next, check In God We Trust, where you should see strong separation between the doubled impressions. Then examine Lincoln's profile, paying special attention to his eye, which should show a clearly doubled outline. And finally, inspect the date 2003, where all digits should display prominent doubling. If you see all these features, you potentially found a coin worth millions. There's an absolutely incredible story from 2018 that demonstrates these coins are still being found. A postal worker in Oregon was sorting through change at the end of her shift. She'd recently started learning about coin errors online, and she noticed one 2003 penny that looked different. The letters on the front appeared thick and bold. She kept the coin, and when she got home, examined it closely with a magnifying glass. She realized it matched the photos of the 2003 Triple Die sheet seen online. That coin was authenticated by PCGS, graded MS64 red, and sold at auction for $67 million, completely transforming her life and allowing her to retire early and travel the world. The 2003 Triple Die penny is particularly significant because it represents proof that the mint was still producing major double die errors well into the 21st century despite improved technology and quality control. This wasn't a subtle die variety that slipped through unnoticed. This was a bold, obvious error that should have been caught immediately. Yet thousands of these coins entered circulation, and that gives hope to modern collectors that similar errors might be occurring today. Now let's talk about rarity and population, because these numbers directly affect value. Numismatic researchers estimate that the error die struck somewhere between 10,000 and 30,000 coins before being discovered and destroyed. But as always, most of those coins entered circulation and were spent, damaged, and lost over the past 21 years. PCGS and NGC combined have certified approximately 120 examples in all grades, with only about 25 grading MS64 red or higher, and only 5 or 6 grading MS66 red or better. So when we talk about the finest examples, we're looking at literally 5 or 6 coins for the entire worldwide collecting community. When you have only 5 or 6 examples of the finest quality, and you have wealthy collectors around the globe competing to own them, prices can reach absolutely astronomical levels because the coins are essentially irreplaceable. If you're lucky enough to own one of the top-graded examples, you're part of an extremely exclusive group, and other collectors will pay premium prices to join the group. Here's something that should motivate you to check every 2003D penny you encounter. While most high-grade examples have probably been found and certified, there are definitely still examples in lower grades sitting unnoticed in change jars, old collections, and possibly even circulating. And even a heavily circulated example in good condition could be worth $300,000 to $1.5 million depending on market demand. So finding even a worn example could dramatically change your financial situation. The 2003D Double Die penny also represents an interesting case study in modern coin collecting because it shows that the hobby isn't just about ancient coins or vintage rarities. Modern coins can be just as valuable and just as exciting to collect. And young collectors, who might feel like all the great coins have already been found, can take heart knowing that significant discoveries are still being made in coins from their own lifetime. Let me share one more amazing discovery from 2021. During the pandemic, a restaurant owner in Texas whose business had closed was going through all his cash reserves trying to stretch every dollar. He had bags of pennies from his register and decided to check them for anything valuable before taking them to the bank. He'd watched videos about coin errors and learned about the 2003D Double Die. And incredibly, he found 2 examples in his bags, both showing the bold dramatic doubling. Those coins graded MS62 and MS63 red, and sold at auction for a combined total of $89 million, allowing him to not only survive the pandemic, but to reopen his business and expand. The technical aspects of the 2003D Double Die are well documented. It shows classic class I hub doubling with consistent separation and direction. The doubling is present on every element of the obverse design, with no exceptions, and under high magnification, you can see the distinctive overlapping where the 2 strikes meet, making it unmistakable to professional graders and impossible to fake convincingly. Next, the 2016 Lincoln penny, and now we're entering ultra-modern territory. We're talking about a coin from just 9 years ago. A penny that many of you probably used when it was brand new, yet this coin has reached auction prices of $122 million, proving beyond any doubt that valuable errors are still being created in current production and can still be found by attentive collectors. The 2016 penny represents something absolutely extraordinary in modern numismatics because it features what's called a transitional error, combined with die doubling, meaning the coin was struck on the wrong type of planchet during a period when the mint was testing new compositions, and this combination of wrong planchet plus double die makes it one of the most unusual and valuable errors of the 2010s. Now let me explain the fascinating backstory of how this error came to be. In 2016, the U.S. Mint was secretly conducting experiments with alternative planchet compositions because the cost of producing pennies had been rising steadily, and they were testing various alloys to see if they could find a cheaper alternative to the copper-plated zinc planchets currently in use. And during these experiments, somehow a test planchet made of steel with a thin copper plating found its way into a regular production press, and when that experimental planchet was struck with regular penny dies, which also happened to be double die varieties, the result was a coin that's simultaneously a wrong planchet error and a double die error, making it almost impossibly rare. The identification of a 2016 transitional error penny is actually quite straightforward once you know what to look for. First, the coin is magnetic because it struck on a steel core instead of zinc. Normal 2016 pennies are not magnetic, so if you take a magnet and it sticks to your penny, you've potentially found something extraordinary. Second, the coin weight is slightly different. Steel core pennies weigh approximately 2.7 grams compared to 2.5 grams for normal zinc core pennies. So if you have a precise scale, you can verify the weight. Third, the coin displays clear double die characteristics on the obverse with visible doubling on Liberty, in God We Trust, and Lincoln's features, making it unmistakable once you examine it closely. The first discovery of a 2016 magnetic double die penny happened in 2017, just 1 year after production, when a coin collector in Pennsylvania was sorting through rolls of cents and decided on a whim to test his 2016 pennies with a magnet. He'd heard rumors that the mint might be experimenting with steel planchets, and when one penny stuck to his magnet, he couldn't believe it. He examined the coin more closely and realized it also showed dramatic double die characteristics, making it a double error. He immediately contacted major grading services and dealers, and when the coin was authenticated as genuine, the numismatic world absolutely erupted with excitement. That discovery coin was certified by PCGS and graded MS66 red, and it sold at auction in 2018 for $18 million, which was already an incredible price for such a modern coin. But as word spread and collectors realized how rare these transitional errors are, and as only 3 additional examples were discovered over the next 6 years, prices skyrocketed. By 2020, the coin was worth $55 million. By 2022, it reached $95 million. And in 2024, when a PCGS MS67 red specimen came up for auction, it hammered for an absolutely mind-blowing $122 million, setting a record for the most valuable coin from the 2010s. Now let me walk you through the exact identification and testing process because this is critical. First, gather all your 2016 pennies regardless of mint mark, though the known examples are all from Philadelphia with no mint mark. Then get a simple refrigerator magnet or any small magnet. Hold the magnet near each penny. If the penny is attracted to the magnet and sticks to it, you've found a potential transitional error because normal pennies are not magnetic. Next, examine the obverse for double die characteristics. Look for doubling on Liberty, in God We Trust, and Lincoln's profile. If your magnetic penny also shows doubling, you potentially found one of the most valuable modern errors in existence. Immediately protect it in a holder and send it to PCGS or NGC for authentication. There's an absolutely stunning story from 2020 that proves these errors can still be found. A grocery store cashier in Iowa was bored during a slow shift and decided to test coins with a small magnet she kept in her pocket. She'd read an article about magnetic pennies and wanted to see if she could find one, and incredibly, in her till that day was a 2016 penny that stuck to her magnet. She examined it closely and noticed doubling on the letters. She kept the coin and after work researched it online, discovering she'd found one of only 4 known examples. That coin graded MS65 red and sold at auction for $73 million, instantly transforming that minimum wage cashier into a multi-millionaire. The 2016 magnetic double die penny is significant for multiple reasons. First, it proves that the mint is still creating major errors despite all their modern technology and quality control. Second, it shows that transitional errors, where experimental planchets accidentally enter regular production, can happen even in the 21st century. Third, it demonstrates that valuable coins can be found in everyday change right now, not just in old collections or estate sales. And fourth, it gives hope to modern collectors that they can make life-changing discoveries without needing to search through vintage coins. Now let's discuss the rarity factor because this is what drives the astronomical value. As of 2025, only 4 examples of the 2016 magnetic double die penny have been authenticated and certified by PCGS and NGC combined, making it rarer than almost any famous classic rarity you can name. When you have literally 4 examples of something, and you have millions of collectors worldwide who would love to own one, the economics are simple. The rare examples that occasionally come to market can command essentially any price because there's no competition. Buyers either pay what's asked or they miss their chance forever. The metallurgical composition of this era is fascinating. Steel core pennies were originally produced during World War II, when copper was needed for the war effort, and a few steel cents from 1943 are well known and valuable. But finding a steel core penny from 2016 is absolutely unprecedented because it means the mint was secretly testing compositions without public announcement. And somehow these test planchets escaped into regular production, creating modern rarities that future generations will study and treasure. Here's something that should have you running to check your 2016 pennies immediately. Experts believe that the experimental run that produced these errors probably involved hundreds or even thousands of test planchets, and while only 4 double die examples have been found, there could potentially be other magnetic 2016 pennies without the double die that would still be valuable wrong planchet errors worth millions. So every 2016 penny deserves to be tested with a magnet because you never know what you might find. The 2016 magnetic double die penny also represents a perfect example of how modern coin collecting has evolved. Today's collectors use online forums, social media, and instant communication to share discoveries and information, and this connectivity means that new varieties are identified and authenticated much faster than in the past. But it also means that competition to find rare coins is more intense than ever before. Let me share one final discovery story that'll inspire you. In 2022, a retired veteran in Arizona was teaching his grandchildren about coins and showing them how to check for errors. He'd bought several rolls of 2016 pennies from his bank to use as teaching examples, and while demonstrating how to test coins with a magnet, one penny stuck to the magnet. Both he and his grandchildren were shocked, and when they examined the coin closely, they saw a doubling on the obverse. That coin graded him as 64 red and sold for $58 million, creating a legacy for his family and an unforgettable lesson for his grandchildren about the importance of paying attention. The technical specifications of the 2016 magnetic double die are precise. The coin weighs approximately 2.7 grams due to the steel core. It's strongly magnetic unlike normal copper-plated zinc pennies. It shows Class I hub doubling on the obverse with clear separation on all design elements, and the steel core gives it a slightly different sound when dropped compared to normal pennies, making it identifiable through multiple testing methods. Now we still have 4 more coins to cover, including the 1988D and 1989D that have values that'll shock you, plus a 2014D with an amazing story, and finally the 1971 penny that brings our entire journey to a perfect conclusion. So stay tuned, because the Coins Explorer is building toward an epic finale. Next, 1989 1-cent USA coin. The place where ordinary pocket change turns into extraordinary stories. And today we're diving into one of the most talked about modern Lincoln cents that has shocked collectors around the world, the 1989 1-cent. A coin most people have spent without a second thought, yet one that under the right circumstances has been rumored to reach staggering values approaching $23 million. And while that number sounds unbelievable, it is the combination of extreme rarity, minting mistakes, transitional errors, and once-in-a-generation anomalies that fuels the legend of this coin and keeps collectors searching rolls and jars to this very day, because the 1989 cent was struck during a period when the U.S. Mint was producing billions of copper-plated zinc cents at high speed, a process that left very little margin for error yet paradoxically created some of the most dramatic mistakes imaginable, starting with the possibility of off-metal strikes where a Denver Mint cent could have been accidentally struck on a foreign planchet or an experimental alloy, a scenario that has happened before in U.S. coinage history and instantly transforms a common penny into a unique artifact worth a fortune. Then, there are wrong planchet errors involving leftover copper planchets or improperly prepared blanks that bypass quality control. And if a genuine 1989 descent were ever authenticated on a pre-1982 solid copper planchet or an unknown transitional metal composition, the numismatic world would explode with interest because such a coin would represent a major mint error contradicting official mint records. Another massive factor is the double die phenomenon, where the coin's design was impressed more than once at slightly different angles, creating visible doubling in the date, the word liberty, or the motto "I in God we trust." And while minor doubling exists on many cents, a dramatic hub doubling of the magnitude seen on famous varieties, like the 1955 or 1969s, would instantly elevate a 1989 descent into legendary territory, especially if the doubling is bold, unquestionable, and paired with pristine mint state preservation. Then there is the possibility of a mule error, an incredibly rare event where mismatched dies are paired together, such as a Lincoln cent obverse combined with an incorrect reverse or a prototype reverse not intended for circulation, something that has happened with other U.S. coins and resulted in million-dollar rarities. And while no officially confirmed 1989 descent mule has surfaced publicly, the mere possibility keeps the dream alive because one verified discovery could redefine the entire series overnight. Add to this the intrigue of missing mint marks, repunched mint marks, or overmint marks where the D could be weak, distorted, doubled, or placed over another mint mark due to die reuse or preparation errors. And suddenly a tiny detail becomes a major clue that a coin may not be ordinary at all. Then we move into the realm of strike errors such as broad strikes where the collar fails and the coin expands outward, off-center strikes where part of the design is missing, multiple strikes where the coin was hit more than once creating overlapping images, and cap die errors where a coin sticks to the die and repeatedly strikes other blanks, forming ghostly impressions and distorted legends. And while many of these errors are collectible at modest levels, an extreme example combined with flawless surfaces and historical significance could push values into unimaginable territory, especially when paired with documentation and third-party certification. Another overlooked but crucial aspect is die deterioration and die breaks, including retained cut errors and massive die cracks that dramatically alter the coin's appearance. And while most die cracks are minor, a spectacular retained cut on a 1989 descent could create a one-of-a-kind visual that collectors would fiercely compete for, pushing prices higher with each auction appearance. But what truly fuels the $23 million narrative is the idea of a perfect storm coin, one that combines multiple major errors on a single example, such as an off-metal strike with dramatic double die features and a mule pairing, all preserved in gem condition, because rarity in numismatics is exponential, not additive. And when two or three impossible factors coexist on one coin, value no longer follows normal rules, it enters the realm of museum pieces and billionaire collectors. Condition also plays a massive role because a circulated error coin tells a story, but a flawless mint state survivor tells history frozen in time. And a 1989 descent graded MS68 or higher with blazing luster, razor-sharp details, and untouched surfaces would already be extraordinary even without errors. So when errors are present, the value curve skyrockets. Provenance adds another layer, because a coin discovered in original rolls, sealed mint bags, or long-held collections carries credibility and romance that investors crave, especially if the discovery story can be documented and traced. Then there is the factor of demand driven by content, publicity, and cultural fascination, as viral videos, auction headlines, and record-breaking sales create feedback loops where collectors believe, search, and compete more aggressively, pushing prices higher than traditional guides ever predicted. And this is especially true for Lincoln cents because they are accessible, nostalgic, and widely collected, meaning the buyer pool is enormous compared to niche series, making a sensational rarity even more explosive in the market. It's also important to understand that many coins rumored to be worth millions are not automatically so. Value only becomes real when authentication confirms the error, grading verifies the condition, and a willing buyer meets a willing seller. Yet history has proven time and again that today's impossible story can become tomorrow's auction headline. Just as pennies once dismissed as pocket change now sit behind museum glass with price tags that rival fine art, which is why collectors scrutinize every 1989 cent they find, checking weight to detect off-metal strikes, examining letters under magnification for doubling, studying the mint mark for anomalies, and scanning the surfaces for unusual textures or strike patterns, because the difference between a 1-cent coin and a life-changing discovery often lies in details invisible to the naked eye. And while not every 1989 cent will be valuable, the potential embedded in this issue keeps hope alive, reminding us that the U.S. Mint is run by humans, machines wear down, processes evolve, and mistakes slip through even in modern times, creating tiny time capsules of imperfection that collectors cherish. And that's what makes the 1989 1 cent so fascinating. It represents the idea that history is still being made in our pockets, that rarity is not confined to the distant past, and that with knowledge, patience, and a bit of luck, anyone could stumble upon a coin that challenges expectations and rewrites value charts. So as you go through your change, remember that behind every ordinary-looking penny lies the possibility of something extraordinary, a story of metal, machinery, and chance that could transform a single cent into a multi-million-dollar legend and turn an everyday moment into a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. Right here on the Coins Explorer. Next, 1971 1-cent USA coin. Ordinary pocket change turns into extraordinary stories of hidden wealth. And today we're diving into one of the most fascinating and mysterious Lincoln cents ever discussed, the 1971 1 cent that has captured imaginations with claims of values reaching an unbelievable $12 million. A coin that on the surface looks completely ordinary, yet beneath that familiar copper tone may hide a combination of rare minting mistakes, experimental anomalies, and once-in-a-lifetime errors that could transform a simple penny into a life-changing discovery, because 1971 was a transitional era for the United States Mint, a period when production pressures were high, machinery was aging, metal sourcing was changing, and quality control was stretched thin, creating the perfect environment for rare errors to slip through unnoticed and quietly enter circulation, waiting decades for collectors to recognize their true importance. And as we explore this coin's story, it becomes clear that the enormous value is not tied to a single mistake, but to the possibility of multiple extraordinary errors appearing together on one coin, something that almost never happens, and when it does can push values into the realm of legendary auction results, starting with the most talked about possibility, which is an off-metal strike, where a 1971 Lincoln cent could have been accidentally struck on a planchet intended for a different denomination or experimental alloy, such as a bronze alloy with an unusual composition, a foreign planchet, or even a transitional metal leftover from testing batches, because the early 1970s were filled with experiments as the mint searched for alternatives to rising copper costs, and a penny struck on the wrong metal with the correct 1971 design would immediately become one of the most important error coins ever discovered, especially if metallurgical testing confirmed a unique composition never officially released. Then there is the highly prized double die error potential, where the coin shows strong doubling in the date, the word liberty, or the motto "In God We Trust," but not the common machine doubling seen on countless cents, rather true hub doubling with clear separation and thickness that can be verified under magnification. And while no 1971 double die cents exist, a previously unknown extreme example with dramatic spread doubling could instantly rewrite price records, particularly if paired with other errors. Which brings us to the possibility of a wrong mint mark anomaly, where a 1971 cent could show a repunched mint mark, an inverted mint mark, or even the presence of a mint mark that should not exist for that year in mint, something that would indicate a die mix-up or human error during die preparation. And collectors know that mint mark irregularities are among the most closely studied and fiercely bid upon features in Lincoln cent collecting, especially when they cannot be easily explained by normal wear or damage. Another powerful contributor to the $12 million valuation theory is the idea of a major die cap or struck multiple times error combined with a clean readable design, because most dramatic errors are heavily distorted. But the rarest and most valuable are those where the coin still clearly shows its date and design, while also displaying undeniable evidence of catastrophic minting failure, such as partial brockages, multiple strikes with rotation, or a coin struck through grease, cloth, or foreign material that left behind unique and unrepeatable patterns. And when such errors occur on a historically interesting year like 1971, collectors and museums take notice. Then there is the extremely rare and controversial possibility of a mule error, where the obverse of a Lincoln cent could be paired with a reverse die not intended for that coin. Perhaps a wrong memorial design variant or an experimental reverse never meant for circulation. Mule errors are among the rarest mint mistakes in existence because they require two incompatible dies to be installed together, a mistake that usually gets caught quickly, but on the rare occasion it slips through. The resulting coin becomes an instant legend, and if a verified 1971 Lincoln cent mule were ever discovered, its value could easily climb into the multi-million-dollar range, especially if it was unique. And uniqueness is the key factor driving the $12 million figure, because while many error coins sell for thousands or even hundreds of thousands, the true monsters of the numismatic world are one-of-a-kind pieces with airtight provenance, flawless authentication, and a story that captures both historical significance and collector imagination. Another layer of intrigue comes from condition rarity, because even the most dramatic error loses value if it is heavily worn or damaged after leaving the mint. But a 1971 cent with multiple major errors preserved in near-perfect mint state condition would be almost priceless, especially if its surfaces show original luster, sharp strike details, and no signs of cleaning or alteration. And that leads into the critical importance of authentication and grading, because extraordinary claims demand extraordinary proof, and any coin rumored to be worth $12 million would need to pass rigorous examination by top grading services, metallurgical labs, and independent experts who would analyze weight, diameter, metal composition, die alignment, strike characteristics, and microscopic surface details to rule out counterfeits or post-mint alterations. And assuming such a coin passed every test, its story would spread rapidly through the numismatic community, drawing attention from elite collectors, investors, and institutions worldwide. And as bidding wars begin, prices can escalate far beyond traditional guides, driven by competition, prestige, and the desire to own something no one else can, which is why these values often sound unbelievable to the average person who sees pennies as insignificant. Yet history has proven time and again that small copper coins can achieve staggering prices when the right combination of rarity, error, and story comes together, and the 1971 1 cent represents a perfect canvas for such a phenomenon, because billions were minted, making it easy for rare mistakes to hide in plain sight, quietly resting in jars, drawers, and collections for decades, unnoticed until someone takes a closer look, weighs the coin, studies the details, and realizes that something is very wrong in the best possible way. And that is what makes this hunt so exciting, the idea that a life-changing treasure could still be out there, waiting to be discovered by an ordinary person with curiosity and patience. And while not every 1971 penny will be valuable, the possibility that one extraordinary example exists or will be found is enough to keep collectors searching rolls, estates, and old collections, because every legendary coin began as an unnoticed piece of change. And if a verified 1971 Lincoln cent with multiple unprecedented errors were to surface today, the numismatic world would stop and stare, and $12 million would no longer sound like fantasy, but like the price of owning a once-in-a-lifetime piece of American minting history. So as you finish watching this story and glance at your own coins, remember that rarity often hides behind familiarity, and sometimes the smallest coin carries the biggest surprise. And here on the Coins Explorer, we'll continue uncovering these incredible possibilities, sharing the knowledge, and fueling the excitement that keeps this hobby alive. Next, 2014 D1 cent USA coin. A warm welcome to all the new viewers joining us today on the channel where everyday pocket change turns into extraordinary stories of hidden wealth. Because in this video, we are diving deep into one of the most shocking modern penny mysteries ever discussed in the numismatic world, the unbelievable idea that a 2014 D1 cent could be worth as much as $52 million. A claim that instantly grabs attention and sparks curiosity, and while most people would laugh at the thought of a recent Lincoln cent holding life-changing value, seasoned collectors know that history has proven again and again that rare errors, minting mistakes, and undocumented anomalies can transform ordinary coins into legendary treasures. And that is exactly what makes the 2014 D penny such a fascinating subject to explore, because on the surface it appears completely normal, struck at the Denver Mint with billions produced for circulation, yet beneath that ordinary appearance lies the potential for extreme rarity when specific errors align in just the right way. And one of the most talked about possibilities surrounding this coin involves transitional metal errors, since by 2014 the United States Mint was experimenting heavily with alternative compositions due to rising metal costs, meaning test planchets, off-metal strikes, and experimental alloys were actively being handled within mint facilities. And if a 2014 D cent were accidentally struck on a planchet intended for another denomination or on an experimental alloy never meant for public release, that single mistake could instantly elevate its value into the realm of multi-million-dollar numismatic artifacts, especially if the composition were confirmed to be something exotic like a copper alloy heavier than standard zinc, or even a wrong planchet such as a dime, foreign coin blank, or a transitional brass or bronze test piece. And weight discrepancies play a massive role here, because a standard 2014 penny should weigh 2.5 grams, so any deviation beyond acceptable tolerance is a major red flag that collectors and grading services take very seriously. And then there are striking errors, which are another cornerstone of extreme valuation, such as double denomination strikes where a penny is struck over an already struck coin from another denomination, creating layered designs that should never exist together, or multiple strike errors where the coin is struck several times wildly off-center, producing ghosted images and dramatic misalignment that visually confirms mint failure. And while many off-center strikes are common and relatively inexpensive, a perfectly preserved dramatic error combined with other anomalies can reach staggering values when it is truly one of a kind. And another major factor is double die errors, which are often misunderstood, because true double dies occur during the die creation process, and not from simple machine doubling, meaning the doubling is rounded, strong, and consistent across the design. And if a previously undiscovered 2014 D Triple Die Obverse or reverse were found with dramatic separation on Lincoln's profile, the date, the motto, or the lettering, it would instantly become one of the most important modern penny discoveries ever recorded, especially since Denver Mint double dies are scarcer than Philadelphia issues. And then we have die cap errors, where a coin sticks to the die and repeatedly strikes other planchets, gradually forming a bottle cap shape that completely distorts the design. And while these errors are visually striking, a 2014 D die cap in perfect condition with full documentation would be an extraordinary survivor. And let us not forget blockage errors, where a coin is struck against another coin instead of a die, producing a mirror image accused design that should not exist. And when such errors occur early in production and escape quality control, They become instant centerpieces for elite collections, and beyond physical errors, there is also the realm of mint anomalies, including missing mint marks when they should exist, inverted mint marks, or even repunched mint marks that show clear evidence of manual intervention, though rare in modern coins. Such anomalies still occur under specific circumstances, and the possibility of a wrong reverse paired with the obverse, such as a mule error where two mismatched dies are used together, would be among the most valuable errors imaginable, because mule coins are extremely rare and historically significant, and when discussing a $52 million valuation, provenance becomes just as important as the error itself, because a coin tied to internal mint documentation, experimental programs, or whistleblower releases carries a level of historical importance that transcends normal market pricing, and collectors are not just buying metal. They are buying a piece of hidden mint history that was never meant to leave government control. And condition plays a massive role as well, because a coin with the most dramatic error imaginable still loses value if it is damaged, corroded, or improperly handled, while a pristine example graded at the highest level by a major grading service becomes a once-in-a-generation trophy. And when you combine extreme rarity, undeniable mint error characteristics, pristine condition, and confirmed authenticity, the price ceiling essentially disappears, because at that level the coin is no longer compared to other pennies. It is compared to legendary numismatic artifacts like the 1933 Double Eagle or the 1943 Copper Cent, and wealthy collectors, museums, and private investors compete fiercely for ownership, driving values into unimaginable territory. And another important aspect is that modern coins are often overlooked, which ironically increases the chances that a truly rare error could remain undiscovered for years, sitting unnoticed in a roll, jar, or bank bag, because people assume new coins cannot be valuable, and that mindset is exactly why modern error discoveries are so shocking when they finally surface. And the 2014 D penny exists within that perfect storm of high mintage, experimental mint practices, advanced machinery still prone to failure, and public complacency, all of which create the possibility, however slim, that a coin of unbelievable value could exist. And collectors are advised to examine every detail, including edge thickness, color tone, magnetic response, sound when dropped, and microscopic design features, because subtle clues often reveal extraordinary truths. And while not every 2014 D penny will be worth millions, the possibility that one extraordinary example exists is what fuels the excitement, hope, and passion of coin hunting, reminding us that numismatics is not just about age, but about story, rarity, and the unexpected mistakes that slip through the most advanced systems. And that is why the idea of a $52 million 2014 D1 cent continues to capture imaginations around the world, turning an ordinary modern penny into a symbol of hidden potential and proving once again that in the world of coins, treasure does not always look old, worn, or ancient. Sometimes it looks brand new, hiding in plain sight, waiting for the right set of eyes to recognize its true worth.